Will the Washington Wizards regret trading Deni Avdija? Absolutely. But we have a star in the making in Bub Carrington and will be just fine. We're going to talk about that and more next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's really good, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again, and I appreciate you guys making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And tonight's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, tonight, a lot to talk about. Will the Washington Wizards regret trading Deni Avdija? Absolutely. But we have a star in the making in Bub Carrington and will be just fine. So we're going to look at certain things, what ways would the Washington Wizards definitely regret Deni Avdija? But in other ways, would be all right with Bub Carrington. But we're going to look at that. And Jordan Poole, wow, continues to get L's time and time again in the media. This time, there was a report that came out that he is rated the worst number 2 option of any team in the NBA at 30th overall. So we're going to talk about that. So let's get into it first, guys. Deni Avdija. Obviously, we traded Deni Avdija to the Portland Trailblazers in exchange for Malcolm Brogdon and the 14th overall pick, which ended up being Bub Carrington. Will the Washington Wizards regret trading Deni Avdija? And yes, they're going to regret it. I deeply think they're going to regret it. But Bub Carrington is doing definitely lessen the blow of losing Deni Avdija, in my opinion, because Bub Carrington is a star in the making. So looking at looking at Deni Avdija, right? 23 years old at the time, definitely part of the long-term vision of the Wizards. He was moved in the draft night trade, acquiring again, mentor and veteran guard Malcolm Brogdon and the 14th overall pick, which again ended up being Bub Carrington. But in what ways will the Washington Wizards regret losing Deni Avdija? Well, simple. Two things I'm gonna bring up real quick. One, he could have coexisted with Bub Carrington. Bringing in Bub doesn't necessarily mean you have to send out Deni Avdija. I think a lot of us, I think that 3/4 of the fan base believe that the Washington Wizards were going to trade Kyle Kuzma to the Sacramento Kings for the 13th overall pick, which tells you what, they could have still acquired Bub Carrington in the draft. So, like I said, if you look at the second point, versatility. Yes, this is a very versatile team. If you look at Bilal Coulibaly, very versatile. Alex Sarr, versatile. But, look at Deni Avdija. Here's the thing. Looking at this contract, he had probably the best contract in the NBA. It was a team-friendly deal. Wasn't going to hamper the Washington Wizards' cap situation going long-term. And, one thing that was brought up, potentially why they traded him, which is he will be going into his prime right when they start getting good. I don't see the problem there. I mean, you have a guy entering his prime, a young player that, again, you developed, you drafted, you developed. He broke out finally. You signed him to a team-friendly deal contract to stay in D.C., then you flip him. But we're going to add some other substance to this argument. There's a report put out by Basketball News, and it says Deni Avdija compares Portland and Washington. Says there's something that's a bit cold. So Deni Avdija was sad to leave Washington due to the relationships he's built throughout the 4 years with the Washington Wizards franchise. Comparing Washington and Portland, he noted that the nature of the region and the different nature of the city itself. We're not going to get into Portland and D.C. comparing them, but we're going to get into other factors real quick. So it says after 4 years with the Washington Wizards, the franchise that drafted him in 2020, Deni Avdija will begin a new chapter in his basketball career with the Portland Trail Blazers, having previously said he found out about the trade while he was knocked out sleep. Avdija was traded in June in exchange for Malcolm Brogdon and the 14th overall pick, which ended up being Bub Carrington, marking the end of his stint with the Washington Wizards. And he goes on to say that, quote unquote, I felt that Washington was my home for 4 years. I built relationships there and built relationships with the coaches there. I felt like I was part of this team and also connected with it emotionally a little bit. And then comes this moment when you're no longer there and you have to understand that this is it and there is no other choice. And also goes on to say, although it wasn't the most glamorous team in the world, we made it to the playoffs once. I was injured at the time, but I went a long way with this club, the player says. I believe that now I'm entering a new world where I'm discovering new abilities, both mentally and physically, and I believe that I will succeed. And I agree. He's going to do well in Portland. Portland's a nice young team where they're not ready to mess with the big dogs in Western Conference. But if you look at the roster, man, I mean, Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, DeAndre Ayton, You got Jeremy Grant. The list goes on, man. I mean, Anthony Simons. I mean, they got a nice young squad. Donovan Clingan. This is a team's going to be good in the next 3 or 4 years in the Western Conference, in my opinion. So he's going to be all right. But I do believe to a certain degree they're going to regret getting rid of Deni Avdija because I think every team needs a Deni. You know what I mean? He's very versatile. You know, his 3-point shot was starting to definitely materialize, and the defense was there. But there's a big but in that, right? Bub Carrington is going to be a star. And I think that, yes, you could easily see them moved on from Kyle Kuzma instead of Deni Avdija, sending Kyle Kuzma to the Sacramento Kings for the 13th overall pick and still acquire Bub Carrington and still have Deni on the roster and still have a nice young forward on the roster. But then if you look at Bilal Coulibaly, kind of changes things too, right? Can he play the 2 guard? Yes, but this front office is investing in Jordan Poole and Bub Carrington, and they should do so because both of these guys are electrifying and they're going to form one heck of a 1-2 punch in the backcourt in the future, in my opinion. So, yet, will they regret getting rid of Deni? Yes, but we'll be all right. Because, like I said, Deni, he's gonna shine in Portland, and Bub Carrington is gonna be a star here in DC. You know, yes, summer league is a small sample size, both for success and for having a bad summer league. You know, look at Alex Sarr had a really bad summer league. If you look at Bub Carrington, had a really good summer league, and there's gonna be growing pains. You know, Alex Sarr, Bilal, you know, going into year 2, but there's gonna be a lot of growing pains with him because he's very raw offensively. And Bub Carrington's going to have his growing pains. Yes, he's very polished coming out of college, coming out of University of Pittsburgh, but there will be growing pains because he's still a 19-year-old player, man. You know, he's still very, very young and still has a lot to learn as far as the NBA game. So, yeah, I'm going to say they definitely are going to regret getting rid of Deni Avdija, but I think that the blow is lessened by Bub Carrington. Bub Carrington is going to be a star. I think we're going to be all right. I think the Washington Wizards will be just fine. You have a lot of young talent here. We talk a lot about the timeline, but, you know, you look at Jordan Poole, 25, Corey Kispert, 25, Sadiq Bey, 25. And these are all 3 guys that I definitely think should stay. So will they regret getting rid of Deni Avdija? Yes, because I believe that it's hard to move on from a 23-year-old player who hasn't hit the prime yet, who you drafted, you developed. He finally broke out, and you definitely see high ceiling with him. Will he be an all-star? It remains to be seen. Will he be a really good star? Absolutely. I think he's definitely going to be the small forward of the future in Portland. And he's definitely going to play well in Portland. And like I said, definitely shout out to Deni, man. I think he's going to play well in Portland. But Bub Carrington is not a bad plan B as far as moving on from Deni Avdija. You know, Bub Carrington is going to be a star. And like I said, I definitely see him being in the backcourt with Jordan Poole for years to come, in my opinion. Like I said, we'll get a clear picture of that going forward because I will be down there chopping it up with General Manager Will Dawkins tomorrow. So we're definitely going to get a lot of questions concerning that. But like I said, at the time, wasn't very happy about the move, sending Deni Avdija, because my biggest thing is this. Not that I didn't think he could be traded, because I think it was known that the only untradeable asset on the roster was Bilal Coulibaly. So the likelihood of not only Deni Avdija being traded, but Corey Kispert being traded and other pieces on his team, it was very likely. So I was never upset about the fact that he was traded, but the fact that he was traded before you move on from a player like Kyle Kuzma, which I'm a big Kyle Kuzma fan, but how do you compare the two in a rebuild? You know, Kyle Kuzma is 28, 29, and you compare that to a 23-year player, and you're year 1, year 2 in a rebuild. I just find it to me, it's more questionable to trade the 23-year-old than it is the veteran. Because I'm trying to tell you, man, I fully thought that they were going to move Kyle Kuzma to the Sacramento Kings at 13, and they very well could have. They could have still retained Deni Avdija and brought in Bub Carrington, and still you would still have Deni at 23 years old and still an electrifying young guard in Bub Carrington. So, like I said, we don't know I would love to be a fly on the wall in the front office, but we don't know what the conversations were had. Now, obviously, if you look at potential returns and trades, Deni Avdija was going to get you the biggest return. Will his return be right around what you're going to get for Kyle Kuzma? We'll see. The asking price right now is 2 first-round picks for Kyle Kuzma. They were able to get that for Deni Avdija and a veteran point guard in return. So wasn't a bad trade. Like I said, my biggest thing is we're in a rebuild, and it's hard to move on from a 23-year-old player, man, when you're in a rebuild. And I felt like Deni Avdija could coexist with Bub Carrington and Jordan Poole and all these players we have. You know what I mean? And I definitely think that he could have coexisted. But then, look, I'm a big believer in Will Dawkins. I'm a big believer in Mike Winger. I'm a big believer in Travis Schlenk. I am a big believer in his front office, and like I said, I'm gonna let him cook. Was I happy at the time? Nah, I was not happy at all because, like I said, I do like Deni, and I like him as a player. I feel like you retain a 23-year-old player who's still developing and who can definitely be a really, really good starter. Now, can he be a star? We'll see. In Portland, there's a lot of young talent in Portland, man. So he definitely could be an under the radar, very important piece in Portland. Could he have been a star in DC? I think the jury's still out on that. I definitely think he could have been a really good starter. That's obviously, but as far as being a star, we'll see. But like I said, shout out to Deni. Definitely think he's going to do well in Portland. But I'm really, really looking forward to see what Bub Carrington can do in the nation's cap. I think he's going to be a good player here in DC. Local guy. He's going to eat. He's a future star in my opinion. So, like I said, it kind of closes out, man. Will they regret trading Deni Avdija? Absolutely. But we have a star in the making in Bub Carrington, and we'll be all right. So, Jordan Poole, man, there's still people out there giving him smoke, man. We're going to talk about a report saying that he is the worst second scoring option in the league. We'll talk about it next. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live, play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. It's that easy, y'all. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On NBA podcast. There is no offseason in the NBA, and Locked On NBA provides daily basketball analysis from national and local experts in 30 minutes or less. Ooh. No one keeps you as informed and entertained as Locked On NBA. Available on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. All right, let's get back into it, everybody. Now, there was a report that came out. I read this on Instagram, and it's through Washington Wiz Updates. So shout out to Washington Wiz Updates, man. And it says that Yahoo Sports, and again, shout out to Yahoo Sports, where the story initially came out of. Yahoo Sports ranks Wizards guard Jordan Poole as the worst number 2 option of any team in the entire NBA at 30th overall. He is ranked lower than players such as Bogdan Bogdanovic and Dennis Schroeder. What are your thoughts? And what are my thoughts on it? And I think this is jacked up because, how do I even start this off, man? Last year, we all know how roller coaster of a season last year was for Jordan Poole. When he started out, when he was first acquired from the Golden State Warriors in exchange for Chris Paul, and we also got Ryan Rollins and Patrick Baldwin Jr. A lot of people were very excited because he in Golden State, he showed that he could be that sixth man. He could be that spot starter. He's a high-level scorer. He's a guy who could definitely score at a high level in the NBA. Now, he has fair share of issues. Obviously, we all know, he caught a jab from Draymond Green, but there's a lot of excitement when he came over here. He struggled mightily in the first half, and he got criticized by, and I say this all the time, and it's true. He got criticized by every major sports network in the country, if not internationally. He got criticized by everyone. And, and it's not that he didn't deserve it because, there was times where he had Shaq to the full moments. He had levels of immaturity to a certain degree, even though behind the scenes that like I said, I've shared this information coming from the horse's mouth of the front office, which behind the scenes wasn't entirely true that there was maturity issues per se. A lot of that was just, the media being the media. But I will say this, he did struggle on the court. And I definitely believe that a lot of that had to do with him acclimating to what his role is in DC, coming over from Golden State where, you're coming out of a dynasty where the team's ready to make a playoff run to you're the face of a franchise in DC and you're that 1-2 punch with Kyle Kuzma, and it changes things. A lot more responsibility was put on his shoulders early on, and he had to take time to really acclimate to his situation in DC, and he did that. Second half of the season comes around, right? After the trade deadline, he gets reverted to sixth man, plays at a high level. We see that potential. Tyus Jones goes down with a back injury. He becomes a starting point guard. Team's faster overall. You see the potential with him at point guard. You see the potential with him as a player overall. A guy who can score at a high level, who's electrifying, who has the vision, and who mentally has proven that he can handle the smoke. He can handle criticism. He can handle all the integral parts that come with being the face of the franchise. Now, is he the face of the franchise presently? You could argue him and Kyle Kuzma right now, but long-term wise, could it be Bilal? Could it be Alex R? Could it be a Cooper Flagg if we indeed draft him and Ace Bailey? But Jordan Poole is definitely that guy that, who can definitely run point and be one of the faces of your franchise, in my opinion, because, he got smoke in the show. I criticize him heavily. But what did I always say, too? And a lot of you guys know this. I criticized him due to his play on the court, but I also said this. He is way too talented to struggle for long. He's going to figure it out, and he did. So looking at the report, I think a lot of the criticism, I think a lot of the smoke that people throw at Jordan Poole has a lot to do with his season, his up and down season last year. But I don't understand, the kid can play. The kid can play basketball. Like, we saw him in Golden State. We saw him at, certain times in the first half of the season, even though overall he struggled in the first half. But in the second half of the season, we saw what kind of player Jordan Poole can be. And it really bugs me when people have this narrative where he's trash. He's far from trash. And I'd rather have Jordan Poole in the roster than Dennis Schroeder. Nothing against Dennis Schroeder. I'm half German, man. He's definitely a German player. I definitely followed Dennis Schroeder all through the years. But, and I like him as a player. But let's be real. I'd rather have Jordan Poole. So the smoke being thrown his way, I don't understand, because the second worst scoring, I don't hold that opinion. I think he's going to have a career season. Kyle Kuzma and him, are they the most glamorous 1-2 punch in the league? No. They're probably the worst 1-2 punch. Let's be real. But Jordan Poole is not straight trash. And like I said, I do get why they would rank him last. But then you see a lot of smoke, a lot of criticism still being thrown his way. And it's like, he's proven that he can play. He's proven that he can take the smoke. He's proven that he wants to be in DC. He's proven that he can be good for young players like Bilal Coulibaly, Alex Sarr, Bub Carrington. So, like I say this all the time, man, for people to criticize the organization and players on this team. As an analyst, as somebody who analyzes basketball, especially the Washington Wizards, that, obviously my focus is on the Washington Wizards. I'm very unbiased. I throw criticism and praise where it's warranted. No matter who you are, everybody is a blank sheet, man. Everybody gets the same criticism. But here's the thing. You give it 2 words warning. And, keep, when people that, right now it's easy for people to hate on the Wizards. It's easy to throw shade at the Washington Wizards because what? We're not very good. We're bad. Our 1-2 punch, our 2 best players right now are Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole. And there's nothing against Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole because both of them have proven that they're ballers. They're both proven they can play at a high level. So it's nothing against Kyle Kuzma or my guy JP13. But here's the thing. We're easy to attack right now. It's easy to go after the bad teams, right? Even though it seems like they go after us a lot more than they go after Detroit, even though Detroit is legendarily bad. And you look at other teams too, not Sacramento, but San Antonio gets away with it because they have Wemby. Without Wembanyama, they would be the brunt of jokes too. So yeah, I get it. It's easy to trash the Wizards, man, but keep that same energy because I'm a believer in what they're doing. I'm a believer in what this front office is doing. I'm a believer in what Brian Keefe can do as head coach in developing this young talent. I'm a believer. I think that we are definitely headed down the right direction. So for all the people to have something to say about the Washington Wizards and have something to say about Jordan Poole or Kyle Kuzma or Bilal Coulibaly or even Alex Sarr, keep that same energy when they start winning. Keep that same energy because people forget Golden State was a punchline for a long time. There was years where, they had Antoine Jameson. There's years where they had some talent, Chris Mullins. The list goes on. Baron Davis. They had talent over there, but they weren't a sustainable talent like they were underneath Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and company. Harrison Barnes, the list goes on, the Iguodala. They were, they became a sustainable winner year in and year out. And that's where the Washington Wizards are headed because I always use the Golden State Warriors as an example, just like the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you look at Golden State in their dynasty, if you look at Oklahoma City with, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Kevin Durant, and what they've been able to do since then, that's the blueprint. Acquiring young talent. Building franchises into sustainable winners, not just winning a championship and then breaking it all down again. No, you want to be a contender year in and year out. It goes back to the 90s Bulls. They were a force. They were a force year in and year out because if you look at the makeup of their team, how they were built, they had MJ, the obvious star. You had Robin to the Batman, which was Scottie Pippen, who you could argue was also a star, but not anywhere close to the star appeal that Michael Jordan was. And then you had the perfect role players, where you had your B.J. Armstrongs, where you had your Steve Kerrs, where you had your John Paxsons, where you had your Bill Winningtons. It's all about the makeup of how you build a team. And Oklahoma City and Golden State are the blueprints. And I think what the Washington Wizards are doing, they're heading down that same direction. So my message to this to haters is that, okay, by all means, we're bad, we're trash, right? It's easy to kick a man while he's down. It's easy to go after a young player like a Jordan Poole or even a Johnny Davis and criticize them when they're down. Keep that same energy when JP13 has that career season like I think he's going to have. Keep that same energy. And when they build this thing up in 3 to 4 years, keep that same energy. Because now, if you look at the Commanders in football, with that big win against Cincinnati Bengals on Monday night, you're starting to get a little bit more attention from the national media. Now, the same people, and it's funny because the same people who criticize the Commanders are now out there talking about they're going to win the NFC East. So keep that same energy, right? But it's easy because the national media is down on the Washington Wizards. And they have been for a long time. People like Stephen A. Smith have been heavy critics of John Wall and what they had going on in D.C. He's been notoriously known going after John Wall all time and time again. And, and it's not that his criticism was not warranted, because there was times, where John Wall coming to camp out of shape and, going to the Rose Bar, stuff off the court. But the Wizards are easy to attack. But my message is this: keep that same energy. Keep that same energy when we flip the script and start winning some basketball games. So I'm going to get into what to expect the rest of this week, guys. And look, we're ramping up. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by Gametime. So you guys know I'm a sports fanatic. Baseball season about to end, but I spent my share of time at Camden Yards and Nats Park. But right now it's football season, so you definitely going to catch me down at Northwest Stadium or in Beanmore. But look, I've been through every ticket app there is, and to me, Gametime is the best, and it's not even close. And there's 3 main reasons why they are. Well, number 1, Gametime picks. Creation makes it easier to save more on sports tickets, but not only sports events, right? Concerts, comedy shows, theater events, etc. Seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, or else you're going to end up behind a beam and looking around the corner the whole game. What else? The lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So look, do yourself a favor. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, everybody, let's get into it. All right, before we call it a night, tomorrow I will be down at the practice facility chopping it up with General Manager Will Dawkins. So we will be reacting to that, reacting to my questions and a lot of his comments tomorrow evening. So definitely tune in for that, because a lot of good questions are going to be going towards General Manager Will Dawkins, and definitely intrigued to see what his response is going to be. Definitely going to see what the vision is, going to definitely asking those hard questions, and definitely get a glimpse of what to expect this season with the Washington Wizards. Okay, training camp starts Monday, man, with Media Day. So Media Day will be held on Monday. I will be there to cover the Washington Wizards and be there with other media outlets and get those hard questions in. And again, definitely looking forward to kicking off training camp with Media Day at Capital One Center in DC on Monday. So definitely looking forward to that. And training camp is next week, guys. So like I said, training camp is here. Preseason is here. I believe the first game is January 6th. So, man, look, not January. Lord, did I just say January? October 6th. So you're looking at next week, or the week after next. So then the 6th, I believe, is a Sunday. So look, we're here. The time is here. The season is ramping up. So, like I said, if you're not a member of the Locked On Wizards, man, definitely consider being a member. A lot of good content going coming your way. Obviously, we go live after each and every regular season game and preseason game. So definitely tune in. Definitely want to be your first source for all news concerning the Washington Wizards. So again, I will be chatting up with General Manager Will Dawkins tomorrow and reacting to that tomorrow night. So definitely tune in for that. And Monday, we'll definitely be reacting to Media Day. So I will definitely putting out, and I'm gonna put a poll out there for you guys if you want to go live for either video, whether it's tomorrow night with General Manager Will Dawkins or Monday at the Media Day with the players and head coach Brian Keefe. If you guys want to go live, we'll go live. If not, but we're still going to be putting out a reaction video to both times. So again, definitely appreciate you guys, man. I will see you guys tomorrow night. We're going to chop it up I'm going to chop it up with Will Dawkins tomorrow, and we're going to react to that tomorrow night. So again, appreciate you guys, and appreciate you guys rocking with me through all, through the draft process, through free agency. A lot of moves made, man. But especially rocking with your boy through the quiet times, man. Right now, there's not a lot going on, and a lot of you very, very loyal, man. Tuning in every time I put a video out, even when we were only putting 3 out a week. Definitely appreciate a lot of you hardcore supporters, man. Definitely tuning in and showing love, man. So again, I will see you guys tomorrow night. Hail to the Wizards and peace. See you guys next time.